What's up, YouTube? On this episode of Coddiwomple Overland, we're going to be continuing our route along the Georgia Adventure Trail.
We don't need a destination, let's go where the river's taking us.
This leg of our journey started at Brushy Mountain Penitentiary, where we had hung out for the weekend at the Southeast Overland camping event. We made our way further south into Georgia, where we would pick back up on the Georgia Adventure Trail. By the time we got to where we wanted to pick back up on the trail, the sun was setting, and we decided to just find camp and hang out for the night. Deb's hair is not wet from rain. She actually washed her hair on the inside sink of the TetonX. For this leg of the trip, Matt and Don will be riding along with us. We left camp pretty early that morning. There was a lot of different things that we wanted to see and a lot of miles that we wanted to make. It wasn't far at all from camp where we found our first place that we wanted to stop and investigate. This was the Skull Shoals Historic Ruins. This historic site has over 10,000 years of history, from early Native Americans to the DeSotos, all the way to Georgia's first paper mill in 1911. There's a really cool walking trail all the way around it, and you can see all different kinds of ruins. After taking a few steps way back in time, we were back on the trail again and headed north. We couldn't hit this part of Georgia any better, as the leaves and the flowers were showing signs of new life everywhere around us. We're also starting to find more and more dirt roads as opposed to just gravel roads in this part of the trail, which was definitely a welcome sight. And also another welcome sight was the amount of creek crossings that we were starting to encounter. One thing that you'll notice for this trip is that we picked up the TetonX from XGRID Campers for this part of it. We had pulled it across the west coast, and now we wanted to see just how well it would do out here on the east. One of the things that I really like about the Teton trailer is the air suspension. While Deb's favorite thing is more about housekeeping. With the compression latches, there's virtually no dust that gets into this thing at all, and the same holds true, I would imagine, for water. We haven't had it through a lot of water yet, but that's coming in time. Matt and Don were with us for our Wyoming trip, and they seen just how easy things were with the camper. The one they really liked and picked out was the Mission Summit, and they're loving it so far. By this point in the day, we had all worked up a pretty good appetite, just exploring and enjoying the North Georgia beauty. It was time to pull over and have some lunch. After a quick lunch break, it was back on the move again to explore some of the beautiful North Georgia area.
I had plenty of room over here on this stop. I just couldn't see it.
Because that's I'm pretty sure that's one of them sticky weeds, ain't it?
There with a Hulkamania shirt, and of course the Hulk autographed it.
There's so much history in this area, you just have to stop and take a look at things sometimes. One of the things that we like to stop and look at is some of the old cemeteries. That gives us a chance to pay our respects to the people who were here in previous lives. If it wasn't for these folks, the history that we're seeing throughout this beautiful area may not be here. One of the other things that Georgia Adventure Trail is kind of known for in this northern part is some mud sections. Now, we've been pretty lucky because it's actually been dry down here, and this was really the only muddy section that we found. I've seen some videos where this place could get pretty sloppy at times. We were just fortunate enough to it only be a little bit wet. Shortly after that muddy section, we were on a section of old road. You could tell this has been here for hundreds of years. I could just imagine seeing Confederate soldiers riding straight down this same very area. The trail takes you through several different WMAs, and here we're starting into the Lake Russell WMA. You can check the local rules and regulations because there's a lot of these WMAs that you're allowed to primitively camp in. This time of year, what you'll find a lot of in the WMAs and even in the National Forest are controlled burns like this one. While it looks pretty rough right now, by late spring, all of this will be regreened and beautiful again, and all of that underbrush will be gone so you can still see through the forest. This not only helps us be able to see through the forest, but it also helps Aspen too, as he's always hunting for something to chase. By late afternoon, we have made it out of the clay and out of the pines and into the mountains of North Georgia. As much as we would like this whole trail to be nothing but back roads and trails and dirt, sometimes you just have to go through the smaller communities. This one is pretty cool, and it was neat to see. It's a complete lake community. Well, it's true, we weren't out in the vast wilderness. It was pretty neat to see all the lake houses along Lake Raven. Now, as we made our way most of the way around the lake, we came upon a road closed sign. We started looking for a place to turn around and was hoping that we would be able to get turned around pretty easily when we found this barricade that had been moved out of the road. We decided to take a gamble and continue on just to see how far we could make it, hoping that the road was truly opened back up and we would be able to get on through. We continued on for several miles, hoping that we wouldn't get right to the end of this leg of the trail, only to be turned around for several miles to have to reroute. We even started looking for alternatives to get across the river. We looked at that bridge, but decided it was probably a little too sketchy to try to cross. So we went ahead, continued further, and were super lucky that we were able to find our way right on across the river and continued up the trail. By 6 o'clock in the evening, we had decided to start trying to find a camp. One of the closest areas that I knew of was the area of Dix Creek. So we decided to take a little bit of a detour off the GAT and find camp for the night.
We may end up getting into a good little trail after all.
Yeah, I told Dawn a little bit ago this is what we've been looking for all day.
Yep, for sure. Look at that old cabin over there. It's cool.
This was definitely more trail than it was road. It was more trail than anything that we'd found on the GAT. We were really looking forward to getting to camp early in daylight, have a nice dinner, sit around camp for a while, and just sit back and enjoy our surroundings. And that's when we found the locked gate. It was time to turn around and look for something different. Lucky for us, our detours are pretty cool. If it had not been for the detour, we would have never seen these 3 bears running across the field. But after locked gates, detours, watching bears, it was dark by the time we got to camp. We found a place just off the GAT, another place that I had known of, but I didn't know for sure whether we'd be able to get to it. We got to it without any problem with the trailers and set up and had an incredible dinner. While Dawn was fixing her and Matt hamburger steak and onions, Deb was throwing on some steak fajita wraps for us. After a late dinner and a long day, everybody called it an early night. The next morning we woke up to a steady rain. We didn't stay at camp any time at all. We just packed up really quick and got on the trail. Matt and Dawn decided to go ahead and leave us from here and start making their way back to North Carolina. And Deb and I continued along the GAT. We had a very short piece to finish, and one of the final ends of it was Tallulah River. This is a place that we've been to several times and really enjoyed this drive. By the time we made it about halfway up to Lula River, we decided to pull over and fix the coffee that we didn't get a chance to fix first thing this morning. We filled our cups with coffee and continued on. We made our way all the way up to Lula River to the area of Tate City. We started to stop at the mall, but it was a little too crowded, so we decided to continue on. By the time we got to the Georgia-North Carolina line, it had set in a pretty steady rain, and we had found the end of the GAT. So we've made it to the end of the Georgia Adventure Trail. We're at the Georgia-North Carolina, and just like a beginning, we started with a little bit of rain. Now, this route has been a lot of fun. That was Aspen. This route has been a lot of fun. It's been very scenic. There's nothing challenging about it that we hit, but it gives you all of the back roads and the background of Georgia, all the way from the south all the way up to the north. It gives you a little bit of everything from the sand to the pines all the way into the mountains. We're sitting here at about 2,500 feet. So if this is something you want to do, check on the VMan1313 website, and that's where you'll find these tracks. You can find these tracks of ours and all of our other tracks on our Patreon account. Until next time, see you.